Hey everybody, welcome to the YS Podcast. My name is Adam McLean. This week's show is going to kick off with Jenny Olsen.
One suggestion that I've been trying to implement in my life lately is to not turn my email on first thing in the morning. And I don't know about you, but I almost had to go through withdrawal on that one. But what I've learned is by waiting a half hour or an hour to turn it on is that I can plunge into a project and actually start my day out and feel productive. And then by the time I get to my emails, I feel like, okay, I can handle these. I try to do them in short bursts and then periodically shut them down and go back to working on a project. What I've also found helpful is to review what is the mission of our organization, what are our values, and to think about that first off during the day. So that kind of guides me through the day and helps me make decisions. So just starting the day out right. That and a good cup of coffee is a good way to start.
Thanks for that tip, Jenny. Did you notice she kept it short? She's helping you manage your time already. She's a smart one. Next up on the show is Mark Elsell, and he's going to share this devotional with you.
Hey everybody, how you doing? Mark Elsell here. Just want to share a short devotional with you. We'll start with a story. A few years back, I decided I was going to go scuba diving for the first time. I'd always wanted to go scuba diving, so I went out to Catalina Island, which is off the coast of Los Angeles, this little island off of there, and signed up to go scuba diving. And on that day that I went scuba diving, I was the only person that was going scuba diving that day. And so it was me and a guide. So I got to the guide shop, and they sat me down. They made me watch a video, and on the video it showed you how to scuba dive. It was like 20-25 minutes, and they were like, on the video they were doing it in a pool, and the guy was showing how this person to do in the pool. And then, so I got done with the video, and I said to the guide, all right, where's the pool, man? I'm gonna go in the pool and try this out. And he goes, oh no, we don't have a pool here. I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, we just throw you out in the ocean and go from there. I'm like, oh my gosh. And so they loaded us up with all the equipment, and we went out and we got in the ocean, and I am bobbing in the ocean, waves crashing over me, and just bobbing around in the ocean. And then the guide and I are just floating out in the ocean, and he goes, okay, I want you to put on your mask, put on my mask, put on your breather, and there was like a buoy, and then there was a rope that goes down to the bottom. It was about 60 feet down, and he's like, I want you to grab the rope, and then I want you to start going under. I want you to go down about 2 feet and then come back up. And so immediately I went down, and when I got like this far under the water, I was like panicked. I started panicking because it was time to breathe, and I had my breather in, but I was so afraid. I was like, it was like warning signs going off in my head, like, do not breathe underwater. And so I popped right back up, and I was afraid. Honestly, I was really afraid to actually take a breath underwater, to use my equipment. And so the guide said, Mark, you gotta do this. You gotta go down. So I did it again, put on my mask, put my breather in. I got down about this far again. It was time to take a deep breath, and all of a sudden, wah, 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 it was like warning signs going off in my head again, like, don't breathe underwater. So I popped back up, and the guide's like, Mark, what are you doing? It was just him and I. And he goes, you can't do this. You gotta trust your equipment. And so we did this dance, that dance up and down for like 45 minutes because I could not get over my fear and just take a breath and go down. And finally, the guide said to me, he said, Mark, he said, you've got to go now or we're getting out. And so I can remember that, finally saying, hey, I'm going to trust this. And I remember going down under the water, and I got about 3 feet down, and it was time to take that breath, and I was just like, I mean, it was amazing. I was like, oh my gosh, I can trust this. And so I kept going down and down. I ended up like 60 feet down, and it was an amazing world in the Pacific Ocean. Just being in the ocean, swimming with these fishes and seeing all kinds of wildlife and just fish. It was just beautiful, this amazing, amazing world. But I would have never discovered that world if I hadn't got past my fear and trusted my equipment and trusted my guide that I would be okay. You know, in 2 Corinthians, Paul writes this in chapter 5, verse 7. It's a verse that a lot of us are really familiar with. He says these words, "We live by faith, not by sight." We've all heard that word, live by faith, not by sight. But the word there for faith, it literally means behavior inspired by surrender. So it's our behavior. Faith is what we're moving in, but it's inspired by our surrender. You know, on that day I went scuba diving, I had to surrender to my equipment. I had to trust it. I had to surrender my life over to this equipment and realize that it could take care of me, that I was going to be okay. I had to trust my guide. I had to surrender to my guide. And that is what faith is. Faith is all about surrendering. It's about surrendering our lives to God, and then our behavior that comes out of that surrender is a life that's pleasing to God. Hey, I hope you guys learn to surrender. I know every day that's a struggle for me. Trust can be very hard. In ministry, trust can be very hard. It's even hard as a pastor to trust God a lot of times. But I'm encouraging you to trust God. Go down deep with Him, because there's amazing worlds that He wants to show you that you never see if you don't surrender. Have a great one. See ya.
Hey, thanks for watching the show this week. I want to invite you to connect with me. You can send me an email at adam@youthspecialties.com, or also look me up on facebook.com/youthspecialties, or on Twitter. You get to me and I'll get to you. It'll be great. We'll connect. We want to remind you, just like we do every week, that your ministry matters. We know that this is a crazy time of year. You're planning next year, you're entertaining kids, you're thinking about football practice and all those things. But you need to know that all that stuff matters. It matters deeply to the parents in your ministry, it matters to the students, but most importantly, it matters to the heart of God. Thanks for what you're doing, and we'll see you next week.